We are live today here on iHeartRadio and also AMFM247.com. Tune in, iTunes, 990 WBOB out there in Rhode Island as well. And internationally live on 107.5 Leicester in the United Kingdom. I am, of course, Jigman Freud and Jignatius Jaguar, whichever you want to refer to me as. And we have got two great guests in studio with us. And you guys had a hell of a show last night out there at the old OK Corral, as I call it. It was an adventure. So, Brett, I want to start with you first, brother.
Go for it.
Talk to me a little bit about comedy. I know we kind of have a mutual connection in the fact we both know Romy, which is awesome.
A good buddy of mine doing a fundraiser for him and Annie Mays in Manhattan next Friday, actually, for his kidney transplant.
That's awesome.
We're hoping to make a lot of money for that. But yeah, I've been doing it for about as long as around about 10 years. Traveling around as many gigs as we can get across the U.S. And yeah, usually this time every year we're in New York for a couple weeks, but we pushed off our trip.
Yeah.
Until the fall this year, but
yeah,
man. I've been running an open mic in Lawrence for 8 years now. At Conroy's Pub open mic.
I did a kickboxing match in Lawrence last weekend. So.
Oh, where at?
Yeah, at Thatcher's.
Huh.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about one of the things I always like to ask the comedians.
Yeah.
Is it a bad room or bad crowd, or is it the comedian's responsibility to not make it? Which, because I've talked to some comedians that have been like, oh, sometimes you just have bad rooms. And then I've talked to some other comedians, and in fact, Romy told me this when we did Jiggy Jag TV years and years ago. He's like, it is your responsibility to keep them engaged because you are the talent.
That is true, man. It's true to an extent, anyway. I mean, when it's a huge room, it's kind of difficult to engage and to rally certain crowds. But yeah, I mean, I can see 100% at a smaller venue. If you're losing the room, it's definitely on you most of the time. 90% of the time. But it can go both ways for sure.
So, how do people get in touch with you on social media, websites, all these various things, man?
Brett is funny on Twitter, Comic Schmidt on Instagram, and just Brett Schmidt on Facebook. It's pretty generic. I don't have
That's awesome.
Facebook page, as I just never cared about putting one together. There's too many of those out there anyway, so whatever. So
last night you guys did the first night of a 2-night stay here in Hutch.
Yeah, Salt City Brewing.
What was, they've redone the inside of that brewery, and it is just fantastic.
Oh, yeah. Awesome.
So, talk to me a little bit about just the reaction from the crowd and some of the material you did and things like this. Just kind of.
Good. We had a few tables up front that were just hardcore into it, and then I didn't realize there was comedy going on, and they were there to have fun with their friends.
Yeah.
And drink and eat, and that's awesome. They were coming out and supporting the bar and the venue and everything, but yeah, and that's how it is. When you have a show, especially a new show.
Yes.
Not that people aren't even aware about, or may not be aware about. And then they show up, and sometimes you can get them on the train and kind of get their attention.
Get their attention.
They're having a birthday party or something.
That
in the back of the room, and so
that's
it was
awesome.
a split. We got half the crowd, but they were really loving it, and they had fun. I mean, I had a blast. I mean, Cody and I both did almost an hour each, and so that saying that kind of proves that we were having fun. The crowd was having fun. So it was definitely it was a nice visit. And I can't wait to get back tonight.
Well, I did not know that you were allergic to cats. I apologize about that. So I am going to cut it short and let you escape.
All right.
No. You're good, brother. We might even do, before you guys leave, I might do a little 5-minute video interview with you for Jiggy Jag TV when we'll do it outside. I know the Mangler is on his way.
Oh, sweet. Yeah.
And the Mangler has cigars, alcohol, and I believe pot.
Oh, yeah.
Who knows?
2 o'clock.
So I'm gonna let you go,
All right.
and I'm gonna talk to your tag team partner here.
Get some fresh air. We'll talk to you guys in a few minutes.
Yes.
All right,
Well, we are gonna do this. We are gonna take a quick little, probably 60-second timeout here. And when we come back, we are going to get the other co-headliner in here. And thanks for listening. Of course, we are live on kjagradio.com today. 50-plus AM/FM stations across the country and around the world, and you can find us online at jiggyjaguar.com. So we are going to do this. We are going to take probably a 60-second timeout here. And when we come back, we have got more coming up. It is your world-famous Jiggy Jaguar radio broadcast coming up here in 60 seconds.
It's a minute report for America. One of the most important strategic developments in the 21st century has been the enormous growth of the Chinese Navy. Beijing already has more submarines than the U.S., and by 2020, its Navy will exceed America's in size. The global implications are extraordinary. The Congressional Research Service notes that observers of Chinese and U.S. military forces view China's improving military capabilities, particularly naval capabilities, as posing a great challenge to the Navy's control of blue water ocean areas. This is the first such challenge to the U.S. Navy since the end of the Cold War. More broadly, these observers view China's naval capabilities as a key element of an emerging, broader Chinese military challenge to the long-standing status of the U.S. as the leading military power in the Western Pacific. I'm Frank Felicio. Read more at usagovpolicy.com.
That's awesome.
Well, we are back live here on our world-famous Jiggy Jaguar radio broadcast, coast to coast, border to border on iHeartRadio today. Also, AMFM247.com, and our all-new website, as soon as the Pakistani guy gets it completely finished, will be available at jiggyjaguar.com. I get on these websites, I get on like Fiverr at these places. You pay these Pakistani guys a little bit of nothing, and they build you websites. It's amazing. No wonder we can't make no wonder Joe Biden can't quite save the world.
Well, this all goes back to the Soviets.
That's right. Well, my next guest, which this is going to be fun, and I know I'm going to butcher your name, Cody Lindenberger.
Oh, you're so close, man.
I'm so close.
Lindenberger.
Okay, well that was gonna be my next go.
Like the lunch special at a German deli.
Cause I talked to the I talked to the old mangler today who was on his way here, and he told me, he's like, how do you pronounce this fucker's name? And I said, well, I think it might be Lindenberger, but I said no. I said there's just the way my McPherson high school education looks at that, I'm like, no.
It's the thing is, like, it's not a hard name. It doesn't have any like vowel clusters or like CZ next to each other, like
yes,
or anything. It's just
yes.
a lot of letters for a name, and I think
it's a lot of letters for a name.
12 letters, and you're just like, I can't do this. It's like bald guys, you know. Like if I see one bald guy, that's fine. No, but if I see a dozen bald guys together, I start to get worried.
Yes. You know, that's you are you've hit that on the head, my friend.
And actually, last night we had an opener for us. A guy came down from Wichita. First time I'd met him, one of my mutual comedy friends.
Yeah.
And he got up and he did his opening. He did 15 minutes or so. And then he goes, "All right, guys, get ready for your next comic up here. Come to the stage. Big round of applause. Cody Lindenberger."
Oh. Well.
Yeah. That's just the best way to be introduced.
At least you didn't have any of the problems from. I've had some Wichita comics in here, and we've had some that I've went to comedy shows here, and they've done the opening thing, and they just don't know when to get off the stage.
Sure.
I'm like, you're the opener.
I'll walk it over there. I'll get over there. All right, give it up for him. Come on. That's his time.
That's right. Do they have a hook anymore? Do you get the hook? That's right.
I think they're for sheep, but they work for comedy.
So, when did you get your start doing this comedy thing? Because you seem like you're a younger guy than you should be.
I'm still young, you know. I've been doing stand-up about 5 years.
Oh, well, that's cool.
Yeah. So I've been good at it for about a year, I would say.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot better than my buddy Jeffrey, who is a comic from here in town, who is terribly angry all the time at everything. I think he might have made a comment when I was promoting this program today on Facebook. I think he left an angry emoji face.
So nice to have fans.
It's nice to have fans. That's right. So you guys do basically 2 nights. You did the Friday and the Saturday. Are you, now that everything's kind of opening back up and everybody's doing their thing, are you, getting regular gigs, or is it still hard because people are like, I don't know?
Yeah, I mean, we're just starting to book shows again. It's not because comedy for the last year and a half has just been a wasteland. We both live in Lawrence, Kansas, and we've been trying to do outdoor shows when we can, but it's always weather permitting and keeping enough social distance for everyone.
Yeah.
Especially in Lawrence, which is a very liberal town that took the pandemic much worse.
Oh yes, yes.
So yeah, this was literally the first show we booked coming out of the pandemic.
Wow.
So excited. I booked it a couple months ago, but we were waiting for a
That's
time
awesome.
People could all come out to it. So we are starting to get some more. I just this morning was talking to a venue up in South Dakota. We're going to go to in July, and we're talking to a guy last night about a Wichita show.
Wow.
In July, and I was talking to someone about an Omaha show here coming up. So yeah, things are starting. People want to come out and do stuff right now.
Yeah.
Is what we're seeing. People want to come out, and people want to will actually pay for comedy, which is such a rare, beautiful thing to see.
Yes, because I have friends in Salina and Kansas City that are comedians, and the porn people think it's bad that people don't want to pay for porn. People don't want to pay for comedy.
Yeah. Just do them both at once,
Well, so what I got to ask you the same question I asked your co-headliner. Is it the responsibility of the as they say, the funny man to keep things going, or is it you just sometimes have a bad audience? People just have a bad night, they're hot, whatever. They just aren't into it.
I think it's split. I think until the show starts, it's up to the venue, the producer, the host, everyone who's in charge of putting the show together to make sure that everything is set up in a way to be conducive to a good comedy show as possible.
Yeah.
As soon as those lights go up, as soon as that mic comes on, it's on the comedy. They've done everything they can, now it's up to you.
Yeah.
And if you're losing that audience, if you're seeing people getting on their phones, in the front row, that's because of you. That's not because of them. That's because you're not holding their attention.
Not holding their attention.
Talk to them, and people love to see that because we all hate seeing someone on their phone in the front row.
Oh my God.
And calling out on it. There are comedians who just live off of crowd work like that. It's the job,
Well, there is a venue here in Hutch called the Red Shed, and it's basically some guy's shed that's red, and he has bands there, and they're going to start getting into comedy and going to start doing comedy shows.
The band.
Who knows? And I was.
Our drummer's pretty funny.
That's right. They're their own opener.
Yeah. There are no funny drummers, just for the record.
That's right.
The bass player, maybe.
The bass player, maybe. I've met a few bass players, though. I don't know.
They're the randos,
One of the great things about this Red Shed is it's out in the middle of freaking nowhere, so nobody can get on their phones at all. We usually, when we do interviews, we do Facebook Live and things like that. Can't do nothing.
Shoot.
So that might be the perfect comedy show. People still cannot get on the phone.
Sure. That also means, though, that if one of these people takes offense at one of your jokes, you can't call the cops.
Well, that too. Yeah, because they don't have much security out of this this Red Shed thing. They're like, we've never needed the security, and I'm like, okay.
Never had a problem,
Never had an issue. That's fantastic. So, what was it like for you as a comic during a worldwide pandemic? Because you can't be like some of these guys, like these blues musicians who are just performing in their living room and taking tips.
Yeah.
You can't really I guess you could do that,
Oh,
but
there were plenty of people doing that. I got so many invites to do Zoom shows,
Really?
shows, yeah, virtual shows, and it didn't interest me because my favorite thing about comedy is making that connection with the audience. And if you remove that, then it's almost, masturbatory.
It's just
telling jokes to my own computer, hoping people are enjoying it,
You got to have that reaction.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good or bad?
Yeah.
Good, bad, and different.
It's a journey you're taking with the audience, You're starting one place, by the end, hopefully you're somewhere else with them.
Yeah. And it's just like, why would you, but we had, and it was kind of a strange thing because he did an interview with us and then he did a couple more interviews with some other people and then he died. Little midget comedy guy named Puppet. And he was doing Zoom shows like that. What he would do is he had somebody that would Zoom all these different comics in from all over the country, and they had like sets, and the way they had things set up was if you paid them like whatever it was, $5 or whatever, you could be watching it, and you would go from the guy introducing somebody in Omaha, and all of a sudden in New Orleans, here's this comic.
Absolutely. It became its own industry, is what happened.
Yes.
And I actually got invited to do a virtual show by a guy running things out of Lincoln, Nebraska. But he said I had to come to Nebraska to record in their studio to send it out onto the internet. And I got very wary about that. And it was also the same night as the Super Bowl. And as soon as the Chiefs made it, I'm a big Chiefs fan. As soon as I got the Super Bowl, I was like, you know what? I don't think I'm going to do that show.
This is the thing I don't understand. He needed you to come to the location, record everything, so he could send that out.
Yeah, I didn't understand it either. Yeah, we're on the same page there.
We're doing, ever since we started, doing the Jiggy Jag TV and some of the other stuff, we're bringing in Skype calls and shit. You just Skype here, Zoom in.
Absolutely, yeah.
Was he trying to get a bunch of people to show up to do like a Super Bowl party? That's not what he was trying to do.
Much sandwich, you get the 8-foot sub, you think you're gonna eat it all. He's like, I need some friends over.
That just boggles my mind. That did you keep track of this guy? Did he have anybody just show up into the Nebraska area?
I told him, let me know, if you're doing another one later, maybe I'll be able to do it. He never reached out to me again because canceled on him 2 days before the show, which I understood.
Well,
yeah. My loss there.
My loss there. We have got a great guest with us in studio. And by the way, if you want to get on the old Facebook, it's just your comedy page is just Cody Lindenberger Comedy, right?
That's it, yeah.
That's it? There's no...
Almost as original as calling a club inside a red shed the Red Shed.
The Red Shed. That's right. So, performing now that you're back on the road and you guys are doing various shows and things, what has been the reaction from these crowds? Are they happy that live entertainment and live comedy is back? Because you said, last night you guys had 20, 30 people that showed up at the bar exclusively for that show.
Yeah, absolutely. I think nobody's been able to watch live comedy in over a year, and so even people who would never really go to comedy shows, it's just to see something happen. They just want to see something.
Just want social interaction.
I could get on stage and just make brownies or something, and some people would come watch that just because it's something to do. We did a show Thursday night in Lawrence. It was I host a show there called Caw Valley Comedy Night.
Yes.
A venue called the Caw Valley Public House. Shout out to them. And we did our first show back after the pandemic. Had 8 comics on the lineup. Did a $5 door cover and filled the place up. It was
really.
It was amazing. It wasn't too long because I had 8 comics on the lineup, but
wow.
Yeah, that was rewarding to see.
This was the thing that I thought was going to be really interesting when all this stuff started opening back up and people started coming and doing stuff again. Was people would appreciate this stuff more. because we were going and covering, comedy shows, bar shows, these local bands, all this stuff, and you got 5 to 10 people there, and they're like, oh well, not a big deal.
Yeah.
And then people got it taken away from them for a year, and now all of a sudden, like, there's these fighting events and all these things popping up, and people are like, I'm not into pro wrestling, but there's a pro wrestling show Saturday, I'm going. Sure, and it's like, what? So I'm glad to see that you guys are.
It's kind of like when a TV show does a reboot these days, People are like, oh my God, I remember that show. Oh, they're doing that again. That's awesome.
That's awesome.
And for the first few episodes, it'll have big numbers. And there's like, oh yeah, this isn't that good. And
yeah.
So that's probably what's going to happen again. They're going to be like, oh, I remember why I didn't come to these shows.
Yes.
But right now, we're in the reboot phase. We're rebooting entertainment.
We're rebooting entertainment.
6 months from now, who knows?
Yeah.
They're going to fire Roseanne. It's going to change the name of it. Who knows what's going to happen.
So, okay, this brings up, you've kind of brought up a little bit of a deal here.
My relationship with Roseanne?
No.
Let's go there.
No. How have you guys run into this thing where you just can't offend people? Because it seems like, I seen a thing the other day that they're trying to take mother and father out of some sort of deal, and they're now calling them, they're not mothers anymore, they're birthing people. And I'm like, so are you running into this with some of your material where it's like, 6 months ago this random joke that would have got a couple chuckles out of people are now like, I've literally got to get up and leave the room because you've offended me. Are you running into that at all, brother?
Comedy is an ever-changing conversation.
Yes.
The things that were taboo 20 years ago now are not. The things that were considered, normal comedy 20 years ago now, yeah, some of it is considered offensive, but I don't like to say it's considered offensive. It is offensive. If people are offended by it, it's not saying, well, that people think that's offensive. No, it's offensive. You're offending people. The whole thing about comedy is good comedy is the subversion of expectations. Right?
Yes.
And I didn't make that up. That's a very funny thing. That's not me. A lot of people hear that though, and they misinterpret that as meaning just different than what you expect.
Yeah.
That's what they go for. Subversion, the true definition of subversion is not just a deviation. It's using whatever the subject of your joke is against itself. It's taking power away from it. And that requires punching up. That requires speaking to institutions that have power.
Yep.
When you're talking about institutions or groups or people that do not have power, you cannot subvert the expectation because there's no power to reverse. Yeah.
Well.
But I tell jokes that people don't like all the time. And I do them with that mindset of what is the purpose? What is the laugh? Where's it coming from? If the laugh is coming from some 60-year-old stereotype, it's probably not a good joke then, because it's been told for 60 years and people are sick of it.
Yeah.
If the joke is coming from, you're talking about a thing that's been talked about for 60 years, but you're now actually subverting that, then it's fine to tell that joke. And if some people are offended by that, that's their right. Yeah. But I'm not going to stop telling that joke because I've thought it through and I will defend it.
I think that's awesome.
Thank you.
That's fantastic.
So you can buy my book on Amazon. No.
That's right. Go to my TED Talk. So, are you guys selling merch at these shows? Do you guys have T-shirts and all this stuff, or are you just showing up and doing your thing?
And anything like that. I think social media. I'm so bad about plugging shows, and it's my least favorite thing. I don't sell anything. I don't give out anything. Brett's fantastic. Brett actually runs a beef jerky company called Comic Strips Jerky.
Comic Strips Jerky.
And he sells, you're going to love this, he sells nickel bags and dime sacks of jerky after shows, $5 and $10, and he'll sell out his supply.
Just sells them out.
Show. Yeah.
They just fly out the door.
Sit at the bar, drink a beer, eat the whole bag of jerky, come back and buy another.
Buy it again.
And that he makes more off that than off doing comedy.
That's awesome.
And I just sit there and drink. I'm like, hey, good job, man.
Yeah. Hey, he's found He's found a deal.
Thing. Yeah, absolutely.
There
so
is.
I don't know any other comedians out there selling their own jerky, you know?
No. There is a pro wrestler, and I actually have a signed shake weight in here from him. Mr. Fitness 2. And Mr. Fitness's big thing is he's just this. He wears a mask. He's just this out of shape, huge guy, and he always goes out and tells everybody, "I got the $1 million body, Fitness 2." And he's got these shake weights. And every once in a while, when he plays the heel, he'll use the shake weight as the foreign object, or if he was on TBS years ago, the international object. And I couldn't say foreign on TBS. And so weird. And he sells the fuck out of those shake weights. Just signs them and sells the fuck out of them. Sells them for like $20-25 a pop. And these marks are like, I'm in. And I'm like, you could buy one of those for like $10 somewhere and just bring it and have him sign it. You don't need to.
Or guess what? You can just buy one and sign it yourself.
That too. There was a guy who used to be, he used to have a quote-unquote magazine here in Hutchinson, and that's what he would do is he would go get photos, just random photos off the internet, and he would sign this stuff, put it up on eBay. He's selling Alice Cooper autographs, all this bullshit. And people are like, oh my God, I got it.
My brother's
so fuck it, yeah, just.
My brother's big into sports memorabilia, like his apartment looks like, the Basketball Hall of Fame.
Yes.
And it's got so many signed things, and I'm just like, half this is fake, right? Like, no, I got the certificate of authenticity.
The certificate of authenticity, that was always the big one.
No one's ever forged a certificate before.
Yeah. Yeah, I've run into that where I used to, when I was growing up, there was this buddy of mine, the next door neighbor's kid. Him and his dad were huge into baseball cards and all this stuff. Their entire basement was full of unopened, like, Topps baseball cards and stuff. And they had the autograph, and they always had the certificate of authenticity.
Sure, absolutely.
So, when you're doing these shows, how do you guys work it out with you guys being co-headliners? Do you guys like for instance, last night, is he going last, you're going before him, then tonight you flip it, or how does that work? Because I've usually interviewed comics that are like, well, I'm the main event, I'm the headliner, and then I've got these guys opening for me. I've never interviewed anybody who's had a co-headliner. Sure. And it reminds me of like when like when Metallica and somebody would go out on tour, and it's
In sync,
it's never, Metallica's not the headliner, and Sync's not the headliner.
Well, what Brett and I do is we do our sets at the exact same time. We're both talking at the same time.
Equal time.
Different mics.
Everybody gets equal time.
Each other, yeah.
That's perfect.
We're not especially ego driven, so it's not a big deal for one of us to go before the other one or whatever.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, if we're doing a weekend where we have two shows, then we'll just flip it. One night he'll close, one night I'll close. I'm closing tonight mainly because I got a bunch of family coming, and I want them to stick around for the end of the show.
There you go.
I don't want them to watch me and be like, all right, we're leaving. Come on. Like it's an
Brett was great. We'll see you later.
Or something, and my kid's done. So I'm gonna take my camcorder and I'm gonna go home. If we're doing one night, we'll flip a coin for it. Sometimes it comes down to who did the work.
Well, that too.
If one of us did the legwork to actually reach out to the venue, talk to the promoter, book everything, then they're probably going to get to headline that show.
Yeah.
And that's fine. We split our proceeds, we're not, neither of us are getting rich off of this, but neither of us is trying to screw the other one over either.
That too.
And we do our own separate stuff also. Brett's going to New York for 2 weeks here in a month or so, and I'm not going there with him. He does that on his own, and he's got connections out there. And I'll be in Europe doing my own tour.
That's awesome.
5 years, hopefully.
That's fantastic.
But no, it's nice to have somebody. Brett was.
If you do go to the UK, I'll and you go anywhere near Leicester, UK, I'll get you hooked up with DJ Dan, and you guys can. He's got the perfect radio name, DJ Dan, and but he's got like connections to local venues and shit over there in Leicester, so.
I bet British radio is so much more polite than you are.
Oh boy, it is. I have been. We do this show called International Live on Sundays, where he'll get a British musician and I'll get an American musician, and then we'll both do the interview.
Yeah.
And I'll get like these blues guys, or I'll get, we've had a few comedians on, and it is totally different than when we do the British one, because those guys are so polite.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. They're talking about
The
rubbish.
Duke of Cornwallis is here with us today.
Yes.
His thoughts on the Great War.
Yes. And they've always told me that, like, when Trump was in there, and which I still to this day find so strange that Donald Trump was our president. But, he was like, we can't talk, political stuff on the show. And I'm like, well, first of all, it's a music show. Why would we? And but yeah, they have, like, I'll have these artists send me MP3s, and I'll make sure Dan gets some so he can play them on the show. And he'll be like, they've got to be super clean radio stuff. And I'm like, okay. And we had a rapper on one time that he snuck in the word ass. Said it once. He really wasn't paying attention in here. And he's like, dude, I can't run that Friday.
We gotta change it to Fanny, man.
I'm like, what? So yeah, they're super polite over that, or if you ever go tour Canada,
Yeah.
love
to.
they're super polite
It's
up
funny-
there
it's
as well.
funny- It's funny you mentioned Trump. When you first reached out to me to
Yeah.
come in, I was like, can you send me something you've done so I kind of
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
was really just trying to make sure I wasn't going to come in here having to be like, so let's just start here. Donald Trump, best president ever, right?
Yeah.
Which coming to Hutch, like 70.
Well, last night you said you got flipped off when
Oh,
you said
yeah.
something about being
Yeah.
vaccinated.
Yeah, I still did my Trump jokes. I don't care.
Well, the thing that I don't understand about the Trump thing is, when he got in there, him and Bernie Sanders were going to team up, and they were going to buy drugs from Canada, until the pharmaceutical companies called him on the phone and said, you do know who's running the show, right? And then all of a sudden he realized, screw it, I'm just going to sign stuff and hold it up.
Yeah, and then he was going to, create a new form of healthcare for us.
Yeah.
The pharmaceutical companies called and said, hey, let's run everything here. Yeah.
So it's like,
This country.
it's quite the deal. And then as soon as Joe Biden gets up there, and he's, and I saw this, especially here in Hutch, like clockwork. As soon as Biden had that, whatever the hell it was, the little news thing that he did, where he's like, well, if everybody gets vaccinated and everything, maybe by 4th of July we can take the masks off.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there and I'm like, he shouldn't have worded it that way, because people didn't listen to the by 4th of July thing.
Yeah.
And the next day, signs came down in this town about wearing masks. People took them off.
Yeah.
I went to lunch with my mom, and she's like, got her mask on, and she's like, I don't like wearing them, but, you got to wear them to go inside. And I'm like, she's like, what are all these people not wearing masks for? I said, you didn't hear last night? Joe Biden saved the world. It's over. So, and it goes back to the thing like I was asking earlier about the jokes. It's like, if you do the Trump jokes, oh my God, there's a lot of these people that he is still up there with Jesus.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's like
arm
you
wrestle
can't.
into a tie,
It's like you can't. And I'm sure you have got some great Trump material that if, a progressive or a Democrat or whatever, or somebody who's just anti-Trump hears it, they're probably loving it. And it's probably good material.
Yeah. You're right.
But the Trump people, it's not going to matter.
Yeah.
It's just not going to matter.
Because, the last 4 years, there's been plenty of Trump jokes.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I do one that really is just more about how much the world has changed over the past 25 years than anything. That's the real point of the joke. Donald Trump's just one small part of that.
Well, yeah.
And it got a big reaction last night. That's, Yeah, you do have to kind of select material based on your audience and where you're at. You know, you can't just do. I can't do the same set in Lawrence, Kansas I'm doing in Hutchinson.
Yes.
Because half of it's going to fall on deaf ears.
Yeah.
A third of it's going to, be really good, and the other 1/6 of it's going to get me shot in the street. So you got to pick and choose, but also
you got to pick and choose.
Pick
and choose your battles.
Comedian. At this point in my career, I've found my voice. I know the jokes that work best for me and that I'm most comfortable telling, and I can't just completely deviate from that just because I'm in Hutchinson or Sioux Falls, South Dakota, or anywhere.
Yeah.
Work in the middle of the country as a fairly liberal person. That's the tightrope you want.
Yes.
Very
much so. So now that you're starting to get bookings again, where are primarily you're getting calls from people that are like, hey, we're starting to do shows again, we want you to come out? Where are you primarily getting the calls from? Is it Midwest stuff? Is it?
Yeah, Midwest stuff mainly. And that. To be clear, I get calls from places I contact first. Comedy is so much work, just putting yourself out there, getting your name known, making sure people remember you emailed them 2 months ago.
Oh, yeah.
They have to respond to you. Like being on stage telling the jokes, that's the reward for all the
bullshit you gotta go through.
It's so difficult, it's so depressing and at times degrading to do,
Yeah.
So yeah, but I like to drive. I don't like to fly places because I'm 6.5 feet tall.
Oh God, yeah. And
so
those planes are probably.
And they do not make claims for people with these long dancer's legs like I've done.
Long dancer's legs. That's
so
great.
I like to drive. And Brent and I like to road trip. We went to Sioux Falls last year, which was an 8-hour drive. We're going to go to Grand Rapids here in a couple of months, and that's, I believe, a 12.
Wow.
I went to Fort Wayne, Indiana last year, which is a 14-hour drive. And I don't mind that. I'm from the Midwest. A 12-hour drive's a nice day.
You know what's funny about that is we have a photographer who he lived in New Jersey. He moved out to McPherson, Kansas, of all places, and then he moved back to New Jersey. And when he got here, he was so shocked that that's what people do. They just get in the car and drive.
Yeah.
He's like, back in New Jersey, they don't want to drive 8 minutes. He's like, people jump in the car and drive 3 hours to Kansas City. It's fine.
Sure. The trade up there, though, is people that live on the coast won't drive anywhere, but they'll walk 4 miles to get to a place. People in the Midwest. My mom lives 4 houses down from my grandparents here in Hutch.
Yeah.
She drives there every time. She's walking that.
Well, I've known people that I always like to call it the white trash Sonic, but the old R&B next door here.
Yep.
I've known people that live on this block that are like, I'm not walking there.
Sure, yeah.
They just, I'm like, okay, whatever.
I got a car. Why didn't I use it?
That's right. Well, I ended up helping, for whatever reason, my one and only trip to New Jersey. When Michael moved back, he's like, I don't want to be in the U-Haul by myself the whole fucking trip. He's like, I'll pay for everything. You just come with me. I'm like, okay, free trip to New Jersey. And when we got there, he's like, the U-Haul place is 8 minutes from my house. And I said, okay. And he's like, so I'm going to have my mom, you drive the U-Haul or whatever over there, and I'll, we'll just follow you over there. And it sure as shit, right before we got ready to leave, she's like, so where's this place at? And he goes, oh, it's 8 minutes from here. And she goes, 8 minutes? So, and then he looks at me and he goes, see? So, yeah, I'm sure the whole thing is just... So, what is it like, I guess, pre-pandemic that you were noticing when you were going around the country, performing in different clubs and things? What were you noticing as far as material that was, okay, that's getting a good laugh. Oh, that really got over, What was some of the material that you were...
I don't even know if I can remember anything from pre-pandemic. Quite honestly, that time in my life is such a blur to me now.
Yeah.
No, I mean, a lot of them... I'm not really doing pandemic jokes now. Everybody...
And see, this is the thing. Yeah. Everybody's... Yeah.
We're all the same. We all think we had a unique experience for the last year, but we didn't. We all sat at home, got fat, and watched Netflix.
That's it.
That's the universal experience for the last
It was Joe Exotic.
And the people in the audience don't want to hear that either because they live that same life.
They live the same life.
So I'm mainly doing my same material I was doing before.
That's awesome. That's awesome. At least you're not going for the cheap pop, the cheap thing. Oh, I've got 15 pandemic jokes I'm going to do tonight, and
who
I'm
wants to hear a Zoom joke? Nobody wants to hear a Zoom joke.
Yeah. That's awesome. So Cody, what's been the reaction on social media to your stuff? Do you put, some of your material up every once in a while? So
very rarely. I'll record shows and I'll put up clips just so I have something to send out to clubs and venues and stuff so they can gauge their interest in me or whatever. Although that's not how you get hired at comedy clubs. You get hired at comedy clubs by telling them what famous people you've been around. That's all they want to know.
Yes.
They want to know.
I have,
Who are you shaking hands with on stage?
Yeah. When one of my good friends, Mitch Bass, used to have a I guess it would have been a comedy club, but he had a restaurant here in town called Double Barrel, and they would do comedy nights, probably once, twice a month, something like that. And I would interview the various comics that he would bring in just from all over the country. And the local guys from Lawrence, Kansas City, Topeka, they're like you. They're like, well, this is, the deal. But the guys from all over, that was the thing. It was like, well, I know, I've talked to this guy, or I know this guy, or, blah, blah, or, and I'm like, huh? What has that got to do with it? Goddamn thing.
Well, this other funny person who everyone knows talked to me once, so clearly I'm a pretty good comedian, right?
It's just...
I was actually, last April, I was supposed to do a couple of shows opening for Jim Brewer.
That's awesome.
I'm gonna pick that name up real
That's
quick.
fantastic.
And they got canceled because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And I had already updated my comedy resume that I sent out and said, open for Jim Brewer.
Open for Jim Brewer, baby.
And part of me was like, I need to change that.
I got to change that.
And tell them that didn't happen. But the other part was like, they're not going to check.
They're not going to check. There it is, baby. They're not going to check because there is a guy that has done, radio and TV stuff, and he drops the various names.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, you don't have an interview with Chris Cornell. It's not on your website. You know what?
Yeah.
Well, we got an interview coming with Chris Cornell. Well, first of all, Chris Cornell's dead. He's been for a while. But he'll send out the email to people.
Yeah.
He'll go to Rob Zombie's people, and he'll say, well, did an interview with Chris Cornell. They're not going to go check. They don't care. You dropped a name. A month later, I see him shaking hands with Rob Zombie on Facebook. Okay.
It's just something for someone else to tell people to convince them to come see you. That's all it is.
Yes.
I don't know. I know comedians even in Kansas City who they just want to list their credits because there's a new comedy club that's been open for about 2 years now in Kansas City, and a lot of local comics have been hosting shows there. And they're bringing in national, well-known tour comedians. And they're just blowing up. Oh, well, I've opened for blank and blank. And it's like, yeah, because you did 3 weekends at the comedy club, That's... Those people don't know you, But again, you can't check, No comedy club's going to call Jim Brewer on the phone and be like, hey, Jim, this is Clint from Chucklefuckers in Des Moines, Iowa. Hey, listen, I know you've been a touring comedian for 40 years. You've played thousands of venues, met millions of people.
Do you know?
Yeah, what can you tell me about Cody Lindenberger? Is that a real deal? Says here he rode an escalator with you once. Does that sound right?
That... Well, and that's the thing, is like, I've even been around, concert promoters or comic promoters, and they'll drop the names. They'll be like, well, I met Foghat years ago, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, so am I calling Foghat's people and saying, hey, do you know this guy from Topeka? What?
Yeah. I used to know this guy who just go around and tell people that he was inbred.
Oh, really?
But he meant that his parents were cousins.
That's awesome.
That's
So,
my joke.
so how do you write your material? Where do you are you one of these guys that sits down and goes, okay, I've got to write 5 jokes right now,
Yeah.
or are you one of these guys that in the middle of the night something hits you and you're like, oh crap, and you grab a legal pad and you scrub it down and you can't fucking hardly see because the fucking lights are out.
Yeah. All. I have a hot tub. Thank you. And
awesome.
my wife for Christmas last year, she got me a waterproof tablet of paper and a waterproof pencil with little suction cups that stick on the side. And I write a lot of jokes in the hot tub, and just
That's
just
awesome.
Kind of out by yourself, alone with your thoughts. I do try to write 5 minutes of material each week.
That's awesome.
And then
Yeah.
you try it at open mic, and then it turns into maybe 30 seconds of actual good material. You do that for a month, now you have 2 minutes of good
Yeah,
material.
you got 2
and you do
minutes,
that for a
yeah.
year, and now you have half an hour,
There you go.
But yeah, I use voice notes on my phone all the time. I'll wake up at night, or I'll be lying in bed not sleeping, and think of something, and I'll leave a voice recording, and then
That's-
the next morning I'll listen to it, I'm like, what am I talking about? What? Or I'll just like text myself 2 words, and then the next day I'm like, baby money? What is this? What was I thinking about? Now
Well,
that I think about it, baby money might be a good premise. Like,
it might be.
it's money. Like they have those credit cards that are like promoted for teenagers teenagers about
Yes.
fiscal responsibility.
Yes.
They're like, it's baby money.
So, where do you see yourself in 5 years as a comedian?
Yeah.
Or do you look that? Or you didn't dead? Fuck it.
No, it's just trying to get my name out there, trying to get more exposure. I was gearing up last year to go out to LA because that's the mecca of stand-up comedy.
Oh, you better believe it. You better
You
believe
gotta
it.
get out there. You got an LA comic that we know. He had come through Lawrence, and I did a show with him, and he really liked my material. And he
That's
talked to me
awesome.
afterwards, and he's like,
That's
he said, you
fantastic.
come out to LA, I'll tell you the best nights to get to. I'll tell you the best nights to go. Like I'll put
Holy shit.
He was gonna help me out, And then the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
And now he lives back in Kansas City because of the pandemic and because he was sick of LA. And I'm like, I just lost like the one big in I had made.
One
like,
big in.
I don't know.
I was waiting for you. I was waiting for you to say, and now he lives in Austin. It's like everybody lives in Austin.
Yeah, I ain't paying no taxes.
It's like now everybody lives in Austin
Yeah.
for whatever reason or another.
I consider myself a writer first. I think my writing's better than my stage performance.
That's awesome.
I'll admit that. I think I write better jokes than I tell them. I write for a podcast that is currently being shopped to be a television show.
That's
Got
cool.
My first IMDb credit through that, which is
That's
awesome.
really cool.
I've written a TV pilot myself that I'm trying to send around and try to get some traction on. So I think that ultimately, for me, feels like a more realistic avenue to doing full-time comedy
Yeah.
than just doing stand-up. Because I thought the pandemic might weed out some stand-ups. I really hope when I came back,
That some of these
later,
people would just
just to
leave.
quit. Yeah,
Just get out of the
up.
business.
But instead, a bunch of people decided during the pandemic that they want to be stand-ups.
They want to be stand-up
And it's so
comics.
saturated. The club in Kansas City, I was going to go back to the mic there. The first time they did the mic again, 44 comics signed up. And I'm not going to go sit through 44 comics at an open mic.
Oh my
I'm
God.
sorry.
Holy shit.
Yeah, that's too many people, right? You got to have audiences in shifts, like you're changing out the line in a hockey game. Like,
That's right.
Get the 10 o'clock crew in here now.
That's
Come on.
right. That's
These people
right.
Can't laugh anymore.
They did there was somebody that years and years ago did they did a Tech Nine show here
Yeah.
in Hutch, and they had so many openers. Tech Nine did not get on stage till 8 o'clock. They started the concert at 3 o'clock in the afternoon because everybody's like, I'm opening for Tech.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, at some point, the promoter needs to just stop taking people's money. And it's like, with that, oh my God, guys, you got to calm down. We don't need 44 people at stand-up, especially open mic.
I used to do improv. That's actually, I did that before I started doing stand-up. That's kind of how I got into stand-up.
Yeah.
Because I realized I'd rather just stand on stage by myself than have to deal with other people up there.
Yeah.
But I was in a group that traveled around and did festivals and improv clubs and everything. And we did a comedy fest in Chicago called the Nerd Comedy Festival. And it was also
Okay.
like niche comedy, specifically towards genre stuff and things like that. And we were the first act booked. It was a 2-day festival. We were supposed to start it off on a Friday at noon. And it was running through Saturday night.
Wow.
We showed up for our Friday at noon slot, and we come out there's 2 people in the audience.
Holy shit.
Because it was 2 days. Like, nobody's going to be at the first show,
So, how do you guys deal with the, just the whole being, like you did the show here Friday. You're going to do the show tonight. You guys are literally all you've got as far as promotion.
Yeah.
How do you balance some of that? Because I remember just from some events that I've been involved in or different concerts that I helped promote back in the day, or like I was talking earlier about our smoker fight that we've promoted. That sucks. The promotion part sucks.
You're not wrong.
Because, like, for instance, here in Hutch, it's these electronic signs they got all over town at all the stoplights. And it's like, people got nothing to do. Might as well stare at the electronic sign. You can't do flyers anywhere because nobody's, well, yeah, whatever.
Everyone's in their car. No one's
Yeah.
walking anywhere,
Yeah.
8 minutes? Hell no. All that.
And it's, how do you, do you have to go to all these different markets and go, we're going to do a show tonight in Manhattan. Nobody's going to read the flyer. I'm going to have to buy radio ads or whatever.
Sure.
Do you do that, or do you just go, I've got a certain way I do things, and we're going to do it in every fucking market, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
If I knew the secret to advertising comedy, I'd be such a successful comedian. Man. I'd be selling out arenas and shit. A lot of it's a 50-50 relationship with the venue.
Yes.
Here we were so lucky because Salt City Brewing Company has a lot of people following them on social media, a lot of people actively participating with them on social media. And as soon as I created the event on Facebook, and then they co-hosted it, and as soon as they put it on their event calendar, our numbers shot up. 10 times exposure.
That's awesome.
Right there. And that's what you look for, a place that can do that with you. I can't come to a place in Hutchinson and say, like, hey, I want to do a comedy show here at your bar or your brewery, and have them say, okay, but all the advertising's on you. Because I can't do that, because I don't know how to do that much, like you're saying. I'm not going to pay to rent a neon sign for 2 weeks, pay more than I'm going to make.
Than you're going to make.
Yeah. I tried to contact the Hutch News to see if I can get an article.
Oh, God, that is... Yeah.
They didn't return my call, but I do now have a 2-year subscription somehow.
and if they do those stupid paywalls on their website, all the shit. But yeah, that one of my photographers. In fact, I'm gonna see the guy this evening when we're out at the Red Shed. He was telling me one day, he's like, they don't have anybody in the building anymore. They're all working from remote.
Yeah.
And he goes, so if you send them an email, who knows if they get it, and who knows if they'll get back with you.
Sure.
He's like, I sent him he went to go, I guess Hutch High got into some national football thing or whatever, some big deal.
Sure.
Hutch High. And he got a hold of the Hutch News. He's like, hey, I'm going to be going to this thing. Can you get me a press pass so I can get on the field? They got him an email back immediately.
Yeah.
But yet, there's something else that went on, and he sends an email to him, and 6 months later, he still didn't hear nothing from him.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing I love more than doing a comedy club show, because they already have an audience. They're built.
Yes.
They're established.
It's already...
People are going to come to see comedy. You don't have to advertise. I don't have to spread it. I don't have to do anything. That's so nice. And those gigs are so hard to get, because that's what everybody wants.
Yes.
It's the indie comedy, which is mainly what Brett and I do. That's so much more work. But also, I think it's more rewarding, because I'm getting to see people who don't get to see comedy very often.
That too.
If I was in Wichita, Wichita's a great comedy club already. They don't need me to go find a bar and put on my own comedy club against them. Hutchinson does need that,
Yeah.
Lawrence needs that,
Yeah.
McPherson needs that.
Oh, yeah.
So those are the places we look for to try to find places that will work with us
Yeah.
to do a show.
Rather than...
But it is so nice to just
Oh, yeah.
Do nothing
The
for
built-in
nothing,
audience
and
is
just
so
walk in and it's
fantastic.
full, and you're like, yeah.
Yes. And then you can turn around and say, you know, I was going to open for Jim Brewer. That's when you can toss all that out there. So, do you run into, because I deal with like the pro wrestling guys and the MMA guys and all this, and I'm constantly seeing, like, especially at the pro wrestling shows, these marks who show up and they think they can get in there and do what these guys are doing because, well, they made it look easy. Yeah. Do you guys run into that with comedy? Do you have people who are like, you know, I'm pretty funny, blah, 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 blah. And then they...
Oh, yeah. And...
You know, I should be opening for you today. Yeah.
Never that. I'd say 90% of the time it comes from a place of enjoyment from them, where they're having a good time, they're hearing jokes, they're getting some drinks in them, and they're like, this is fun. I can be funny too, you know? And sometimes they want to start talking during you, and that's the comedian's job, is to deal with that. And Brett's so much better at that than I am because of his experience that he has.
Oh, yeah. And being around Romy, I'm sure that he freaking could chop these guys' heads off like Highlander.
I just immediately go to, like, guys, I'm 6.5 feet tall. I'm a fucking giant. Like, don't bother me right now. Yeah. But yeah, but so like last night, Brett's headlining, you know, and I was walking past because our light rig had gotten knocked a little bit. I was going to fix it.
Oh yeah.
And the guy sitting there next to it in the front table, he turns up at me and he just starts trying to tell me a story, a funny story about something that I had talked about during my set, right in front of Brett, right in front of the stage. And I go, that's great, man. Tell it to him.
God damn it. I just, it's like you kind of have hope for the human race. Yeah. And then you hear stuff like that and you're like,
yeah. But again, that didn't come from a bad intention place. He was just having a good time.
He was just having a good time, and he's like, oh, hey, you know, and you said something. One of my good friends, and I'm going to name drop here, of course, because I always name drop on this show, but one of my good friends, Frank Catolo, who used to be, I'm amazed that I know him, used to be one of the writers for Wolfman Jack way back in the day.
Okay.
He always talks
about... Who's Wolfman Jack?
He was some radio guy way years ago. You don't look it. So,
I know.
Yeah. But he was always talking about when people would say things like that. He's like, it just flings the doors open in your head. He's like, don't shut them, just leave them closed. Yeah. And that was what it was. You were up there, you said something, this guy's like, oh. And so then when he saw you, he's like, oh, hey, blah, 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 blah. But he doesn't realize there's someone on stage.
Yeah. We did a show in Salina a couple years ago.
Oh, God. Where did you do the...
Paramount?
The Paramount Bar, yes. The place that is... their stage is as big as Peter's Cat Tree.
Sure. Yeah. One of our friends had just started doing comedy in Lawrence.
Yes.
He was a college student at the time, and his parents lived in Salina, so he was very excited. It was his first show he was producing, and he had me and Brett come down, and our friend John Feeney. And it was a Saturday in Salina, so the bar was pretty full.
Wow.
Hours before the show, for people who were just there drinking, you know.
Yeah.
And we get to like half an hour before the show, and the guy producing it and the host are like, we need to go around and get covers from everyone here.
Oh, yeah.
It's a cover show.
Yeah.
And so he's going around the table, so I'm like, hey, we have a comedy show starting. You need to pay, $5 if you want to stay. And some people left. Some people paid. There's one table of guys, who were just like, what the hell are you talking about?
Oh, Jesus.
It's Saturday.
Of course.
So they all paid it, but they all have that. You said before, the arms.
Oh, yeah, the arms make me laugh.
This better be worth $5 then.
Yeah.
And they razzed the host the whole time, and he was so young,
yes.
He didn't know how to deal with it. And then I got up, and I was prepared for him.
You were coming for bear, baby.
In my head, I'd worked up a great deer hunter bit about him, about how I wish we had another Vietnam to take care of them.
Oh, boy.
And they all went out and smoked my whole set.
Oh, fuck.
I didn't get to say it. But then they came back in for John Feeney, and John Feeney loves hecklers.
Yeah.
He would rather just deal with them than tell his jokes.
Oh, yeah.
He just destroyed them to the point where
that's fantastic.
One of them walked right to the stage and just pointed at him real aggressively, like.
Oh, Jesus. they had a comedy show here one time, and there was a friend of mine by the name of James Davis. He's out of Wichita. He one time was a comedian. Now he's like a freaking motivational speaker or something. I don't know. Weird. And he was the host of a comedy show. And there was 2 or 3 people in the crowd, and they just were giving him all sorts of problems. And he finally, after he got the comedian up there, he comes off stage, goes into the other room, goes into the dining room area, and he's just madder than hell. And I said, dude, it was like the 3rd or 4th show that he'd ever hosted. And I said, dude, just calm down. They're idiots. Yeah. And he was with these guys. They did a show in Hutch. They did a show in Manhattan the night before, and they were going to do one in Wichita the next night at like the Looney Bin or whatever.
Sure.
And the next night, no problems, and it was fine.
Yeah.
And he got off stage, and he goes, you're right. It's just another night. I said, yeah, it's just, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. Well, as we wrap up here with you, my friend, by the way, thanks for doing this. Thanks for coming by.
Yeah, I like your place is like half studio, half pawn shop, and I like that. It's a cool look.
Yes. Well, we have got all sorts of craziness in this fucking place. I've always had, I'll have like musicians come through, and they'll be like, man, you've got a bigger studio than most radio stations that I've been to. And I'm like, that's kind of the point. Well, before we let you go, let's run it down. When does the show start this evening?
8 p.m. tonight, Main Street, Hutchinson, Kansas, Salt City Brewing Company.
And you guys are inside, hopefully.
Inside, yeah.
Free show. Thank God.
Free show inside. I'm not doing that.
Going out in that heat. Well, I drove by there earlier today, and they had this giant fan outside, and I'm like,
yeah.
Oh, fuck, did they make these guys perform last night?
We went out after the show. It was 10:30 on the patio. It was pretty nice.
Oh, yeah, it's fantastic. They put a shit ton of money into that place.
When I was telling Brett, I was like, this place is so nice, it's definitely going to be closed in a year, because there's no way. We got to get the show in now.
We got to get it in now.
No, I love those guys, and I'm so glad they're let us do it, and they're being so supportive.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So how do we get in touch with you on social media, the websites,
Yeah, you can
everything?
follow Cody Lindenberger Comedy on Facebook, as you said. I'm on Twitter. I think it's Codeburger, Codeberger, and then Twitter, the Gram, Lindenberger and Fries. So, just search my longest name on any of them.
That's right.
Just 12 angry letters all together. You'll find it.
12 angry letters all together. Well, thanks for doing this, brother. I appreciate it. We are going to take